Hey y'all, and welcome back. So we're gonna do a little bit different tonight. This is video number 400 for iRacing stuff. This is a major milestone, and we should hit 200 subscribers not that long ago, like 2 months ago now. So therefore, I'm gonna do like a life story of myself. Tell you my life story, what it was like for me growing up deaf, how I got into NASCAR, how I'm the meteorologist, the guy who do weather forecasts, and how I got into my hobbies. So I'll tell you all about it for the most part, and that's what we're gonna do today. You may notice that we're at Rockingham, and there's a reason why we're at Rockingham. It's because it's where I went to my first race, my first NASCAR race in 2001, and more on that in a second. I should watch something up. Alright, here we go. So let's start off where I was born, because that's pretty important. So I was born in Charleston, South Carolina in 1995, which would make me 27 right now. I will be 28 very soon, in like 3 more months. So very, very soon I'll be 28. So I'm still pretty young, but went through a lot in my life that I'm about to tell you guys. So I was born deaf. And my parents didn't know about it until I was 1 year old. So, completely deaf. And the story goes that I was a very quiet baby. I didn't cry a lot. So my parents, they were trying to call after me, and I was not responding. So my dad ended up doing he's an engineer, so my dad did some kind of science experiment on my hearing. He was dropping the piece of pan next to me, and I was not reacting at all. I was not reacting to the sounds. So they took me to the doctor, gave me a hearing test, and that's when they found out that I was profoundly deaf. So what you're seeing here is a chart that was taken in 1996 in Charleston Hospital. So you can see in the order, which means my hearing was non-responsive, above 90 dB, the decibels. So that makes me profoundly deaf. It's like the most severe level deafness they can possibly get. There's only 2% of deaf people that are this deaf. I was completely deaf. So that was pretty important because I was 1.5 years old at a time, and now when my family found out I was deaf, it was heartbreaking, because back in the 90s, before the 90s, deaf people cannot really be poor society very well, cannot be poor hearing world very well. A lot of deaf people are unemployed, it was gonna be for the hardship. It was still hard, but for me going forward. But a miracle did happen in the 90s. It was this big revolution for the Cochlear implant. A lot of kids were getting Cochlear implant surgeries. In 1990, FDA passes a law that allows kids as young as 2 years old to get cochlear implant surgery. Now, cochlear implant was a new technology. It was not a proven technology by then. But, it was a big debate whether or not I should take cochlear implant, whether I should learn how to speak English, whether I can, learn sign language. It was a whole debate. I had to do a whole video about it in the future. But let me tell you, it was a shitstorm. It was a shitstorm because the deaf community and the hearing community were kind of going against each other about this. So, and my family got caught in the middle. They said what the best for their kids. But yeah, It was a whole shitstorm. And ultimately, my parents made the decision to give me a cochlear implant. So I got the surgery done when I was 2 years old. Went into the hospital. They cut my head open, like my skull open, put the wires and the magnet inside me. So, I think I had a graph to show you. But, and when the surgery was done, it doesn't mean I'm gonna automatically speak, because, I was 2 years old and I missed the critical period where, hearing kids are supposed to pick up their first language from their parents. Parents have to be talking to their babies growing up. And because I was deaf, I can't hear my parents talking to me, so I was not able to pick up the language on my own, even with the hearing on. I was not recognizing the sounds, even with my hearing on. So how we're gonna solve this? That is pretty much the story of my first 14 years. How are we gonna solve this? How are we gonna give voice and hearing to the deaf person with this new technology? So we got this new technology, the cochlear implant. This is my first cochlear implant in 1997. I had to wear wires over my body. This batteries ran on AA batteries. So that's the whole shebang there. So I'm gonna quickly run down the list of all cochlear implants that I ever worn real quick. So it wasn't until 2004, when I was 9 years old, where I finally wore my first wireless cochlear implant. And that's what it looked like. The batteries, you have to change out the batteries every day. It was costing us like $50 a month. It was expensive. So I wore this implant. It was my first wireless implant, and I was very happy because I was really into sports at the time. So I was playing sports, basketball, baseball. So that made me happy. I had to trip over the wires anymore. And then 2009, I upgraded to this implant, the Freedom. It was a piece of shit, to be honest, but I won this from 2009 to 2017. So this is what I was wearing in high school and most of college. It sucked. It was always breaking. It was not the best implant. And then 2017 to 2021, I was wearing this implant. I put this cute sticker on it. I'm a cyborg, so why not embrace it? And when I started this YouTube channel, I was still wearing this for the first 70 videos. And then I changed over to the implant here, because I lost this one. It should disappear after I was doing the video on this Infinity Series race at Nashville in December last year. It should disappear. We think the cat took it and ate it, or took it in the backyard. So that's my that's my current implant. It's still new. It's the first Bluetooth implant. I had the Bluetooth function. Oh my gosh, I can't say these words. I'm sorry. But I had Bluetooth. It had the GPS. It got all, the volume. I can adjust my implant sounds and settings based on, messing with the phone sounds. I can change the volume. I can change the settings. I have 4 different maps. And I still have to go to University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, once every 6 months to reprogram the implant to make sure it's up to the date with the sounds. So yeah, that's the evolution of my implant. So that's what the inside part of a cochlear implant look like. The outside part, the processor, is what you just saw. That changes over every few years. And then, you got the inside part with the magnet called the receiver. And then you got the wires going through my cochlear. It's only my left ear, so it's one cochlea. It probably had to be changed out soon. But I've been wearing the same thing since 1997. It's the same thing on the inside since I got it put inside me in 1997, and I was warned at last appointment that I have to change that in the next few years, which is gonna cost me, I don't know, a shit ton of money because insurance for cochlear implants the worst. My last implant cost me $8,000. So yeah, it's a pretty shitty situation. We're thankful that we're in middle class, that we can afford it, that there's a lot of deaf people who can't afford this kind of technology. Alright, so here's a picture of me when I was, like 4 or 5, I don't know when. I was pretty young. So after 4 years in South Carolina, we moved it to Raleigh, North Carolina for the first time. I said the first time because I moved to Raleigh 3 times in my life. So the first time we moved to Raleigh was in 1999. And we moved it there to be closer to UNC Chapel Hill. So we can get, continue to get education that I need and, adjust my implant and stuff. And then they were trying to teach me how to speak and listen like a noble kid. But it was failing. I couldn't speak. I couldn't understand people. All I knew was to write. I can write. That's the only thing I had at the time. I can write. But I was still mute. And I would be mute for 8 years. First 8 years of my life, I was a mute kid. I couldn't speak. I had no language. I can write A to Z. I can do the math. But I can't do anything else. But I was smart enough to figure out direction and stuff with the maps. And this started a drama when I went to my first elementary school in North Carolina. Because I didn't understand the teacher, I was not understanding anyone. I was not a good student. I was just walking around instead of sitting down, listening to the lessons. And my hearing teachers got sick of me, so she just sent me in the back of the room away from other kids, in my classroom and playgrounds, so not wanting to teach me for the whole year. They didn't want to teach me. They didn't want to teach anything to this deaf person. And then they gave me a test that is done orally. You're supposed to pass this test orally to go to first grade. And of course I failed at that. So they were really setting me up to fail that test on purpose because they didn't want to teach this deaf person. They told my parents I was not going to graduate from high school. Simple as that. I was not going to graduate from high school. And that's what they told my parents. They would put me in special education. They think I was too dumb to amount for anything. I was too stupid to do anything. And all this was happening when I was 5 years old, 6 years old in North Carolina. So yeah, it was pretty shitty. It was pretty terrible. So at the time, I was getting into NASCAR, even as young as 3 years old. This is the first car that I remember seeing on TV, the Bell South car from 1998. This 42 car, I think it was run in Atlanta. So that's the first thing I remember about NASCAR growing up. We're still in North Carolina at the time. And of course, I went to my first Cup Series race in 2001. It was right after Jerome Horse Sr. dying. I remember Daytona 500 in 2001 very, very clearly. My dad had given me the diecast, the new Dodge cars, the 19, about Bill Allott. So my dad gave me the diecast of that Dodge for that race. And then I remember Toby Swart flipping over in my OM20 down the best stretch. And of course, I remember the 3-jet hammer wall into the 36. I remember all that. My brother was very, very excited. My younger brother, he was 4 years old. He was a big Jerome Hort fan at the time. And of course, when he died, he was crying. He was aware what it means. So we went to the race at Rockingham. It was supposed to be a fun day, but it was like a funeral that day. It was raining. It was cloudy. Everybody was wearing black. Everybody was like giving signs to put the signs up for the lap 3. You'll see what I'm talking about on YouTube. If you look at that race on YouTube, go lap 3, you'll see what I'm talking about. And then Joe Mahort Jr. just slammed into the turn 4 wall, lap 1. And then, not long after the lap 3, it rained it that day. So my dad tripped me out of school, and we went back to Rockingham, 2 hours away, and we saw Skiport winning the race that day. So I remember all that pretty well, and that's why the rock means a lot to me. Not long after that, it was reaching the breaking point that no one wanted to educate me, no one wanted to teach me how to speak or write. So, what ended up happening was my parents would look around the world for a deaf school that can teach me how to speak and learn. It's called Odyssey. It's when you learn how to speak and listen and say learn ASL. So that's why we went to St. Louis, Missouri. It sounds random, but that's because that's where the deaf school was. So I would live in Missouri for the next 8 years, from when I was 6 to when I was 14. That was my childhood in St. Louis. So that's the building of a deaf school that saved my life. When they first took me in, my parents, everybody was telling my parents, oh, this kid's too stupid. This kid is too dumb. He's not going to learn anything. He's not going to graduate from high school. So when they took me to the school in March 2001, not only they told me that I was perfectly noble as far as how my brain was functioning, they told me I was one of the smartest kids they ever brought to the school. Not lying about this. And it would reflect in the next 5 years. So I was supposed to spend kindergarten to 8th grade at this deaf school in St. Louis. I graduated after 5. I was done 3 years early from this deaf school. I was way ahead of my peers by the time I graduated. So what happened was, I went first, 2nd grade, and then they made me skip 3rd grade because I was way ahead of my classmates, my friends. So I skipped at 3rd grade. I went straight to 4th grade. And by the time I was in 6th grade, they told me that I was pretty much done with everything they had taught me. By this time, I was learning how to speak. I didn't speak my first sentences until I was about 8 or 9 years old. But from there, my education took off. Not even 2 years later, after I first learned how to speak a full sentence, I was being hearing kids in the science fairs. So, they made the decision that I was too smart for this school now. So they sent me to the middle school, the hearing middle school, from 6th grade to 8th grade. So from 6th grade to 8th grade, from when I was 11 to 14, I went from being in a private Catholic deaf school to the hearing public middle school. It was very chaotic. I didn't know anyone at that school. I was a loner. I didn't want to do anything with the hearing kids. I still had my deaf friends in St. Louis that I can hang out with on the weekends, so I didn't want to make friends with hearing people. The typical middle school stuff. This came back to bite me in my ass. I'll tell you that in a minute. But yeah, when I went to middle school, I was still winning science fairs. I won geography B over hearing kids when I was in 8th grade. I beat the whole school in geography B. So much for me being a dumb, stupid deaf kid, right? That no account was telling my parents. Anyway, growing up in St. Louis, also met that I was going to the races at the Gateway. I went to the Bruce race and the truck races. I don't remember which years exactly, but I think I went like 2 or 3 times. I think 2 of them was like the Bruce years, and one of them was the truck race. I don't remember which year. That's a little bit blurred for me. I was also a huge Cardinal fan growing up. I mean, baseball in St. Louis, like a religion. Everybody supported the Cardinals. It was like baseball heaven in person. Of course, it helped that, you got the superstars like Albert Pujols, Jim Edmonds, Scott Wallen, Chris Carpenter, Yair Molina, Adam Wainwright. It was truly a great time to be a Cardinals fan. So I'm still am a big Cardinals fan to this day. And of course, here's a picture of me when I was 12 in 7th grade and went on my first big adventure on a science trip. It was a science field trip to Grand Tetons. It was the first time I ever went on a adventure by myself, away from my family, as part of a small group. We went camping. We got all the science tests of the field. It was also the first time ever starting to take pictures with a camera, and that'll be a big deal later in my life. And of course, this is when I was 14. I was becoming a bit weather nerd, so I first started to get into weather when I was 7 or 8 years old. My grandfather was watching the Weather Channel, and he was teaching me all these weather things. And thankfully, my grandfather is still alive today to see all this. So, I got bitten by the weather bug, and took off from there. I started to love hurricanes, tornadoes, thunderstorm, heat waves. So I was all about weathers at this point. This is also when I moved it back to North Carolina. Let me see what the next picture was. Yes, alright, so this is me when I was 15 in 2010. I was 15 holding my dog, Lily. It's the same dog that passed away last month. But this is when she was 1 year old, Lily. So, in 2008, 2009, I was supposed to go to high school in Missouri, but then the reception hit everybody very hard. So my dad was about to lose his job. So we had to find something new very quickly, and that's why we bailed it on St. Louis. I was no longer going to the deaf school in St. Louis, so we had to bail out there and go somewhere else. So for the second time out of 3, we went back to Raleigh, North Carolina. In 2009, I was 14. It was very, very, very hard for me because I had lost all my deaf friends. Remember I was telling you about how I was rejecting hearing kids? I didn't want to talk with the hearing kids. They were always picking on me in middle school. But I was always a fighter. I was always fighting back. I was hating people back. When they tried to hit me, I should hit them back. And that made them leave me alone. So that's how I used to deal with the bullies. They will try to pick on me, and I was just punch them back in the nose. I had a couple days for suspension, but, they got them to leave me alone. But anyway, it was a big deal for me moving to North Carolina. Back to North Carolina, I lost all my deaf friends. So I was, alone there with no friends now. So that's why high school is pretty important. This is my best friend, Olivia. Yes, 2022 now, best friend, Olivia. We got pretty close in high school, She was one of the very, very few friends who was accepting me as a deaf person. She was always sticking up for me, when other kids were whispering behind my back, or when other kid was making fun of me, and she was always sticking up for me, shouting at other kids to knock it off. She was a true best friend. I needed someone like her at a time. And of course, there was also a couple other friends, like Michaela here. Michaela was also one of my first friends. Hearing friends. This is when we were both 15 at a time in downtown, small town outside Raleigh. This is when we started had iPhone and stuff. So, yeah, that was a pretty big deal for me, making those little friendships. And then from there, it just snowballed. I became more social. My mom started to teach at my high school, so that made everybody close. That made, my mom was teaching a lot of my classmates, so everybody knew about me, and everybody wanted to become my friend. So I used my weather skill to make friends. So high school ended up being a much better time for me than middle school. I was learning how to interact with hearing people, which is like a big deal because I did not grow up with hearing people in schools. I grew up with deaf people and hearing teachers, but I did not grow up with hearing kids in until middle school. So I had to learn all these social rules, and that was a big deal for me. I learned how to interact with hearing people, learn to be social. After 4 years of high school, I graduated. It was 2013. So I decided to use my love of weather to get BS degrees in atmosphere science at University of North Carolina at Asheville. So I went to Asheville, North Carolina to go to college for the next 4 years, from 2013 to 2017, just to see this beautiful rainbow that I took in 2014 over the campus. Very, very beautiful place. I love the Blue Ridge Mountain. I can talk all about it, and I will here in a second. Alright, look what we're going to talk about right away. So yeah, I fell in love with the Blue Ridge Mountains of North Carolina and the western part of North Carolina. It became my safe space, the heaven on earth for me. Still to this day, the best place I ever lived in, the best place I've ever want to go back to. It just means to me that much. I feel like I found myself at this place. I learned to love myself. I learned to embrace my hobbies. I learned to embrace my passion for weather. And I learned to love the nature. I love hiking. I was taking pictures, I had bought my first DSLR camera for myself. So I started to learn how to take pictures with the hardcore cameras, for real, instead of taking phone pictures. And I learned how to edit stuff in Photoshop. I learned how to make graphics. So I was learning all these new things. And it was this period of time that led me to become a YouTuber, that led me to become an artist. So here's the city Asheville in 2015 that I took a picture of. It was on my birthday. I think I have turned 20 that day. And I decided to climb up the mountain and take a picture of downtown Asheville. I'm telling you guys, it's like heaven on earth for me. It's like, still to this day, the most beloved place in my life. And as it turned out, I was pretty damn good at weather forecasting. I was just dominating other kids at weather forecasting. I was number one in the nation out of 2,000 people several times. I was winning trophies. I ended up finishing 1 year rated in the top 15 now, 2,000 people. I was beating kids from MIT, from Penn State, from Harvard, all the small schools. I was beating them. Not bad for a deaf kid who's supposed to be dumb. Oh, by the way, I was not supposed to graduate from high school either. And here I am in college, beating other kids in weather forecasting. And here are the trophies that I was winning weather forecasting. So I was very, very, very good at weather forecasting. And of course, I graduated from college in 2017 with my degrees in atmospheric science, and that'll be the degrees on the right. And of course, I went back to graduate school at Interstate during the COVID. So I'll tell you more about that later. But I went back to school in 2019. Like 2 years later, I went back to school, and I'm still working on my master's degrees from Interstate. I got a graduate certificate, but I'm still working on my master's, where I should be done next semester. I should be graduating with a master's from Interstate, but more on that later. All you need to know right now is, by this time, 2017, I graduated from college. And naturally, the next thing I did, I went to Oklahoma for a couple weeks. So here's the picture of me, age 22, in Oklahoma, southwest Oklahoma. So my love of weather had led me to become a storm chaser with my camera. So I love taking pictures, I love the weather, I love traveling, and that all came together, combined into storm chasing. So 2 weeks after I graduated from college, I saw my first ever tornado. And luckily in Texas, this is like middle nowhere Texas and West Texas, and I saw my first tornado. 2 days later, I saw my second tornado in Oklahoma. So to this day, I have seen 9 tornadoes. I went storm chasing a couple times in the past 5 years. Saw 9 tornadoes now. I saw 4 in 2017, and I saw 5 in 2021. And here's one of my storm chasing picture from last year. It's got a nice lightning picture in Texas, like far west Texas, where the oil fields are. This is like over an oil field in West Texas. Middle no fucking where. After I got back home from storm chasing for like 3 weeks, I went back home and I found my first job as a weather forecaster in New Hampshire. They wanted to interview me, and I couldn't use the phone to interview with somebody. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to drive myself to New Hampshire and interview for this job in person. So I drove 1,000 miles across the country to do this interview. And of course, I got the job. The same job that I still hold today as a weather forecaster. And I moved it to southern New Hampshire in 2017. This is in July 2017 when I was moving to New Hampshire. And here, I spent the next years of my life in New Hampshire from 2017 to 2019. It was during this time where my creative mind blew up. You know, I was doing all kind of art stuff. I was taking pictures. I was making new friends. I was living away from my family, like 1,000 miles away from my family on my own. You know, completely on my own. I was living in this very tiny apartment that was moldy and very cold. But it was the only way I can afford living in New Hampshire. I'm salary $20,000. So I went out and starting to take picture of the area, making picture, printing picture to make extra money. Like this picture. This is actually when I took a girl on my first date in New Hampshire. We came together to create it. This picture, I got the girl to do cartwheels for me with the flashing shoe on the beach. It was a good first date. We're still friends to this day. She comes to visit me in North Carolina once a year. So we're still very good friends to this day. I also still traveling the country, taking pictures. I went to Tennessee from New Hampshire and back to New Hampshire to take picture of a soldier eclipse that we all saw in 2017. So I drove 1,000 miles to the Smokies of Tennessee to take picture of this, and I drove 1,000 miles back, and that all took place in 3 days. And I was living on the border in New Hampshire and Maine at this time. So this lighthouse in Maine was only 30 minutes from me, and that was my favorite lighthouse. That was my go-to spot. And I also went to Iceland during this time, 2018. My mom was missing me, so we decided to do a mother-son trip in Iceland. We went in a camper van for the next 9 days around Iceland, and we got 3 nights of Northern Lights. So here's one of the pictures that I took of the Northern Lights in Iceland. And here's the picture of myself in Iceland. Still my favorite picture of myself to this day. You know, it's like everything about me is in that picture. Enjoying the nature, enjoying the wonders of the world, enjoying the Northern Lights. I was also taking pictures of the Milky Way on the coast of Maine, New Hampshire, and Massachusetts. I was going out at like 3 o'clock in the morning to take pictures of the Milky Way in the middle of nowhere. This is in a national park in eastern Maine. The picture that you're seeing. So I was really learning everything about my camera. It was a really magical time, my life. You know, just exploring the world, just exploring myself, just exploring my skills. But it was also very hard because I was alone in New Hampshire. I was by myself. I was struggling to make new friends. It's hard making friends as an adult. I had my co-workers, but I didn't really like my job too much. So I was poor. I was living in a small apartment that was not well heated for brutal northern winters. So yeah, it was very tough. And then 2019, I visited my best friend Olivia for the first time in 6 years. So we were catching up. December 2018. I went to Raleigh, you know, me and Olivia, we went out for the drinks, and we spent 6 hours catching up on our lives, you know, and that made me want to come back home to North Carolina, be with my family and my friends. I wanted it to be so short again. I wanted it was familiar to me. You know, I was tired of being broke. I was down in the hole a couple $100 every month. It was very, very hard. So I went to my boss. And asked him for the permission to work remotely from home. It only took 5 minutes before he said, sure, you can work from home remotely from North Carolina. So that was it. It took 5 minutes before, you know, my work in New Hampshire was fine with me going back to North Carolina. So I packed up everything I had, like 2 weeks, and I was moving back to North Carolina, to Raleigh for the 3rd time in 2019 to my parents' house. Me and Olivia, you know, we were 2 lonely people, so we were just spending time with each other, making friendships, you know, being in different relationships with other people. But we had each other, best friends. Me and Olivia would go out and parties. We would do things together. And, you know, we were each other rocks during this time. This was taking Halloween of 2020, I think. during COVID. And this was also the time I decided, I'm tired of being poor. I'm so tired of being poor. So I decided to go back to school, to graduate school, to learn more skills. And I wanted to get a master's degree in GIS. So I started to take online courses at Interstate. And I knew I wanted to get 4.0 GPA with my master's degrees. And I'm happy to report that I still do have a 4.0 GPA to this day. So that's excellent. But that's where I am now with Interstate. Still taking classes. I'll be graduating in May of 2023 with my master's. And then, like maybe 2 years into me being home in North Carolina, in early 2022, me and Olivia, we both found our SO, So Olivia found her boyfriend, Matt, and I found my girlfriend, Candace. So this is Candace. I've been talking about her for the most of a year, but we're starting to date in December 2021. And then, we had a wonderful summer. We had a lot of fun. We went on little trips. We got a couple payways. We started to live with each other. We adopted a cat. This is not our dog. This is actually my brother's dog. But I do adore a corgi. His name's Biscuit. So we adore him a cat. And we're living together now. And then last week, I asked her to marry me. We went to the mountains in North Carolina, and we were pretty sure that we wanted to marry each other. There was no doubt about it. So hopefully next October in 2023, she'll be my wife. And I'm looking forward to that. It's been a long trip to get where I am today. From being a deaf person who's moved to being a full adult with hobbies. A woman who wants to become my wife. My best friend Olivia, she'll be my groomwoman at my wedding. And I'll be part of her wedding as well. Olivia and I, we're both getting married to our person next year. So that'll be a big year for me. Getting my master's degrees and getting married. So I'm very much looking forward to that. All this time, I never a single time stopped taking pictures. I still take pictures. I still love the weather. I still do weather forecasting. I still go on adventures. I'm still living my life. Yes, I have iRacing now, but I have so much more to my life outside iRacing. I went back storm chasing again 2021. I got 5 more tornadoes, saw a lot of wonderful storms. This was taken tested last year. I also, I am still a big NASCAR fan. I went to Dirt Bristol race last year. I went to Richmond. I went to New Hampshire. I went to Charlotte, Roval, Charlotte, the Coast 600. I went to Darlington. I went to Bristol, the night race. So I still go to 1 or 2 NASCAR races a year to this day. I'm thinking about going to the race at Martinsville, Virginia this weekend. So yeah, a lot of good things happening in my life. Yeah, that's the last picture I have for you guys. The picture of the Blue Ridge Mountains. That's where, I want to retire to Western North Carolina, live on the mountains, be at peace. It's been a long life. I came from nothing. I had no language. I couldn't hear people. I couldn't understand anyone. I had no voice until I was 8 years old. Everybody was giving up on me except for my family. And I overcame all that to have a wonderful life. It was a lot of drama growing up, trying to get me a dang education. But we overcame all that. I overcame so much bullshit from the hearing world to get where I am today. It's unbelievable, you know. I am truly lucky to have the life that I have now. I'm truly lucky to be surrounded by people who love me and that I can love back. I'm truly blessed with a wonderful family, with a wonderful best friend, a wonderful soon-to-be wife, Candace, with my wonderful pets. There's a lot to be happy about, and even with all this, I still like making iRacing videos for you guys. I'll have my iRacing story another time. But basically, COVID virus was the reason why I started iRacing in 2020. I was one of those people who was watching NASCAR on TV, and I was like, oh, they're doing iRacing stuff. It looks fun, so I signed up for iRacing. And never looked back since. So truthfully, I was also growing up playing NASCAR Thunder games that EA Sports made in 2003 on GameCube. And then when EA Sports stopped making games and NASCAR started to go to other game makers, the games nosedived it, and I was tired of bad games, shitty games. So that also made me turn to iRacing finally. Because I wore wheel stuff. I wore something that's more realistic than the games that NASCAR was putting out at a time. So here I am. Well, that's all I got for you guys today. That's pretty much my life story in a nutshell. If you all have any questions for me, ask away. Let me know what kind of questions that you have about my life. You can talk to me about my deafness. You can ask me what it was like. I do not ever get offended at people asking me about my deafness. So you want to talk to me about my deafness, let me know and I'll answer them. You want to talk to me about my life, I'll answer that. You want to talk to me about my love of weather and taking pictures, let me know. You want to talk about my education, all that stuff, let me know. I'm more than happy to answer those questions for you guys. I love answering questions. So don't be afraid to ask me anything about myself, my Cochlear implant, my deafness, pretty much my life. I hope you're enjoying this one. I know it's like 48 minutes now. I know it's a long video to tell a story by myself, but it's the only way I can think of telling a story about my life. It's a long life. I'm only 28. Well, I mean, I'm 27, but I'm turning 28 soon. So, I'm still young. I'm about to get a wife. You know, I'm about to get my master's. There's so much more to do with my life. I'm looking forward to more of it. I'm looking forward to many more memories to be made, whether it's on YouTube or in real world, whether it's with you guys or with my family or my future life. So I'm looking forward to that too. But like I said, if you have any questions, just let me know and I'll answer them. I hope you're enjoying this one. Make sure you like the video, leave a comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys later. Have a good one.